We go into the game against Southampton this weekend feeling perhaps a little expectant, but also a tad apprehensive. Um, we should be expectant. We are all expecting a win, but at the same time, we're kind of like West Ham's season has not been that great. Where in the back of our minds we're going, even though it's Southampton, are we going to get the win that we want? West Ham have not won a game since our 2-0 win over Leicester, which was at the end of February. But that win was not celebrated with much enthusiasm from West Ham fans. After all, it was only Leicester in the bottom three of the league. We should have whacked them by 4 or 5 goals, some fans were saying. So we host Southampton this weekend with many fans saying the same thing. They're expecting a cricket score against our opponents. But football simply doesn't work that way, does it? You see, with Southampton already being relegated, in a way, they've got nothing to play for, except for some pride. And this is where even they, who have only won 2 games all season, could be dangerous this weekend. Look, I'll be honest, I am expecting us to win. And if we play anywhere near to the level that we played against Liverpool last weekend, then a win should be coming our way. In our last meeting with them, which was back on Boxing Day, we walked away with a 1-0 win with Jared Bowen grabbing the winning goal. But at that time, under Julian Lopetegui, our performance was also not that great, not that convincing. So what do we expect to get from Southampton this time round? Look, if you're new to the channel, if it's the first time that you're watching the West Ham Voice, please do consider becoming a subscriber of the channel. Nothing does cost nothing to subscribe, and all the content is free. And at the end of the show, if you've enjoyed the content, please do hit that like button. So, Southampton have conceded 77 goals in 32 Premier League games so far this season. That's averaging around 2.5 goals per game. So a good win for us should be by what? 2 or 3 goals? Well, that's maybe if we actually win the game, of course. And Southampton have only scored 23 goals in the Premier League this season. That's under a goal per game. So they don't create an awful lot of attacking threat. So I'm expecting us to get a clean sheet. But having said that, apart from the game against Aston Villa last weekend when they didn't score, their previous 4 games, they got a goal in each of them. That included Liverpool, Wolves, Crystal Palace, and Spurs. So maybe we won't get the clean sheet that we ought to get this weekend. Their most dangerous players include the likes of Carl Walker-Peters, who we're linked to this summer. He'll be a free agent at the end of this season, and we're linked to a free summer transfer for the player. He's got 2 assists so far this season, but it's also his overall play in a poor Southampton team that's caught the eye. They also have midfielder Tyler Dibling, who's got 2 goals to his name, and midfielder Matthias Fernandes, who's got 2 goals and 3 assists, and of course striker Paul Onuachu with 4 goals and 1 assist. Now they're their main key players. Now, we were once linked to Onuachu when David Moyes was still at West Ham. And then we played, when he was at Genk, we played them in Europe. And then we kind of wondered what all the fuss was about, because he's a big lad, 2 meters tall, but there's not a lot about him. He didn't really have much to offer when we played Genk that time. And he's not really offered too much to Southampton this season either. He was purchased by Southampton for £15 million back in 2023. But within a few months, he was loaned out to Turkish club Trabzonspor. Clearly, he didn't fancy the championship. But his record at the Turkish club was pretty decent. 17 goals, 4 assists in 25 appearances. But since his time at Southampton, it's not been great. As I've mentioned, 4 goals and 1 assist to his name this season. There are fears that the player will not adapt to the championship next season, and it's quite likely he's going to be sold in the summer. But the player for me that we really ought to be looking out for is not Onuachu, but it's Matthias Fernandes. In a poor team, he has been a bit of a shining light for Southampton this season with his goals, his assists, and his overall play. Southampton bought him for around about £13 million from Sporting last summer. The 20-year-old midfielder, he's represented Portugal's under 21s team, but it's not yet represented the senior team. Matthias was named as one of the hottest prospects in the Portuguese league before his move to Southampton. Many thought he had a loan spell to lower club Estoril during his time in Portugal, and many thought that he would return to Sporting to stake a claim in the senior team. However, Southampton came in for him, put a bid in for him, and he made his way to the Premier League. He's quite a decent player for a 20-year-old. He's very assured in possession of the ball. He's got a dogged and competitive approach to him. He's actually the definition of a box-to-box midfielder, in a way, West Ham United are looking for. Often looking to drive the ball forward, getting his team forward. He's a driver of the team. But he excels in his tackles and blocks, showcasing his ability to disrupt opposition's play. And I think he's going to feature quite prominently on Saturday, and he's going to be try to become that disruptor against us. He ranks highly in progressive ball carries and successful take-ons, indicating his skill in advancing the ball and beating defenders. Now, whilst his goal scoring is modest in his first season in the Premier League, he does contribute significantly to shots creating actions. So in addition to his 2 goals and 3 assists, he's created 6 big goal scoring opportunities for Southampton this season. Now, when you compare his tally this season against our West Ham central midfielders, he stands up pretty well. He's scored more goals than James Ward-Prowse and Carlos Soler, with only Thomas Soucek, Paqueta and Kudus having scored more than him. But he has provided more assists than those players, and he has created more goal-scoring chances than any of our central midfielders, with only Paqueta coming close with 4 goal-scoring chances to Fernandez's 6. Now, whilst many West Ham fans are drooling over the prospect of trying to sign Tyler Dibbling to West Ham in the summer, for me, I'd be far, far more interested in seeing us put in a bid for Matthias Fernandes. He could turn out to be the box-to-box midfielder that we need, and it may not cost us a fortune to get him. He's still got a contract with Southampton until 2029, and had Southampton remained in the Premier League, I would imagine his value would have soared, would have risen. But relegation will prove to be costly, and there could be a chance that a team like West Ham could get the player for around about, 15, 20, maybe even 25 million. Now, that's still not bad for a up-and-coming 20-year-old player who's had a season in the Premier League. He's kind of proved himself. He's shown what he can do. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Now, Southampton may not want to let the player go, but I'm not so sure that he will want to play in the Championship next season. What we could do, if they don't agree to a deal, a permanent deal, we could make a loan bid, a loan bid with option or obligation to buy at the end of next season. And maybe Southampton might be interested in doing that. If they win promotion back to the Premier League, then he can go straight back to them in the Premier League. It will surprise me if Southampton hang on to him. Apparently, there are quite a few teams interested in the player. We should be one of them because he is not bad, and we need a box-to-box midfielder. He could certainly fit the bill. Right. Ivan Juric was sacked as manager of the team after losing 3-1 to Spurs a few weeks ago. And since then, it's been Southampton's under-21 manager, Simon Rusk, who alongside Adam Lallana has taken over as interim until the end of the season. Now, this is Rusk's second spell as interim manager. He managed Southampton for 2 games, in between Russell Martin being sacked and Ivan Juric being announced. 3 different managers in a season cannot really be easy for any team, I guess. In the game against Villa, Rusk went with a 4-3-3 formation, but it didn't have much great effect. They were kind of cut open pretty easily by Aston Villa at the back, who won 3-0. And despite trying to give Onuachu support up front, that didn't work too well either. It's likely that Rusk will stick with a back four against West Ham this coming weekend, but may feel like he might have to fill out the midfield, hence leaving Onuachu a little bit isolated up front. But I've mentioned there is a chance that Onuachu may not even be available for this game after picking up his ankle injury, and it's 50-50 whether he'll start this weekend. If he doesn't, then the onus is going to be on Cameron Archer and Fernandes to try and provide the goals for Southampton this weekend. So what about West Ham? There are only one or two niggling injuries that may affect our starting lineup that Potter may select for on Saturday. Aaron Wan-Bissaka has had an injection on a minor toe injury, but it's suggested that he should be okay for the game. However, Vladimir Soufal is ready to step in if need be. Aaron Creswell missed the game against Liverpool last weekend and may also miss this weekend's game as well due to a slight knock. And Potter was asked during his pre-match press conference about one or two other players. Started off with Antonio, and what about Antonio's future? Potter confirmed that Antonio's road to recovery is a long process, and that the situation with the player's contract is not likely to be decided just yet, meaning that we're going to go into the summer with the player not really knowing whether he still has a future at West Ham or not. His contract ends this summer. Potter was also asked about Niclas Fullkrug, and is it accurate that he can't provide West Ham with 90 minutes? And Potter didn't deny it. He stated that after being out for such a long time with a hamstring injury, his return needs to be carefully managed, but that he is getting stronger each day as each day goes by. Now, that may continue to mean that he neither starts the game or is able to offer much more than, say, 20, 25 minutes in the game. Now, as I've said a few times before, I'd rather see Fullkrug getting 20, 25 minutes rather than coming on much sooner, much earlier, picking up another injury, which will keep him out for the rest of the season and perhaps the start of the next one. So I don't actually expect Fullkrug to be starting the game this coming Saturday. It'd be great if he does, but I'm not expecting it. And then Potter was asked about Crysencio Summerville, and that continues to be an ongoing situation where there's an awful lot of confusion and an awful lot of conflicting stories about the player's return. Now, we now know he suffered a torn hamstring, which may or may not be healed before the season ends. But yet again, the conflicting stories are bandied around, where on one social media channel, there's the message that he'll return soon. Then on another social media page, according to the senior source, the player won't be back this season. Now, there'll be continued speculation as to whether he will eventually be operated on or allow the hamstring to repair naturally. It's apparently a very similar injury to the one Antonio had, and he had surgery on it a few years ago, and he's not had a problem since. However, with great respect to the senior source, he's gotten these kind of medical things wrong in the past. Now, I asked for clarification this morning, and it suggested that perhaps Crysencio Summerville may not be back in time for the end of the season. However, in Potter's press conference on Thursday, he stated that the player was still with the physios, and he gave a faint suggestion that he will return in the next few weeks. I don't know what to believe. Do you? Let's see what happens over the next few weeks then. Now, I expect to see us go revert to a back four after going to a back five against Liverpool last weekend, with perhaps one holding midfielder, 4 attacking midfielders, and a striker or a player in the striker role. Now, despite Dinos Mavropanos having had a decent game against Liverpool last weekend, I expect him to be dropped to the bench, and it will be Aaron Wan-Bissaka, if fit, Jean-Claire Todibo, Kilman, and Ollie Scholes in the back four. Now, there is an alternative to Wan-Bissaka if he isn't past fit. I've already mentioned that maybe Southampton could come in, but also Mavropanos might be considered for that right back spot as well. I can see either Souček or Alvarez returning to the lineup, with Kudus, Soler, Paqueta, and James Ward-Prowse all filling the midfield roles, which means up front is probably going to be Jarrod Bowen again. Now, we may see Soler playing a slightly different role, more to the left, in order to retain Paqueta in the middle, where he was really effective against Liverpool last weekend. So, I guess you're asking, if there is going to be a striker role, then why would Ferguson not lead the line? Especially if Fullkrug is not fit enough. Well, to be honest with you, it just doesn't seem that Ferguson seems not to have been fighting hard enough to convince Graham Potter that he should be ahead of the pecking order as a striker. Now, many fans are going to argue, well, hang on a minute, he hasn't been given a chance. And yet, when he has been brought on, he hasn't really looked anywhere near sharp enough to stake that claim in the starting lineup. So what do I expect the lineup to look like? Well, for me, obviously, Areola in goal. If Wan-Bissaka is fit, I think there'll be a back four. I've already mentioned Wan-Bissaka, Todibo, Kilman, and Ollie Scholes, who'll retain his place after the baptism of fire against Salah last weekend. And then a possible three in the middle, probably Alvarez or maybe Souček with Ward-Prowse and Paqueta. And then Soler and Kudus behind Bowen up front. Now, there could be alternatives, as I've said. If Wan-Bissaka is not fit, then you could choose between Mavropanos and Southampton in the right back slot. And if he would start with a striker, I think Potter will go with Fullkrug. Although, like I said, I don't think he will play, or I don't think he will start. But if that's the case, then maybe Alvarez will stay on the bench, and you'll see a midfield three of Soler, Ward-Prowse, and Paqueta, with Bowen and Kudus either side of Fullkrug. That's not a bad team. But even the other selection, and I know a lot of fans are saying, don't want to see Bowen playing up front, etc. But I guess at this moment in time, needs must. So what do I expect from the game? Well, I always say, I always go for a win, or I expect us to, against other teams, maybe a draw, etc. I'm going for a win this weekend. I am going for a 3-0. And it's quite possible that James Ward-Prowse may get one of those goals from a free kick to beat David Beckham's record on most free kicks scored in the Premier League. What a bittersweet moment that might be for him if he achieves that against his previous club. Tell me what your thoughts are. What do you think the result will be? Who do you think will start? Not who you want to start, but who you genuinely think will start because of the injuries, etc. And what the result will be. Are you seeing us win the game, drawing, maybe even losing? Please leave your comments in the comments below the video. And like I said, if you're new to the channel and if you've enjoyed the content, please consider becoming a subscriber of the channel. But please, please, please hit the like button as well. Many thanks, and I will see you all very soon.